Hi everyone, Brilliant Little here from your land partner and property developers academy, coming to you today for your next installment of 100 in 100. This is installment number 73, and we've concluded the funding part of the development life cycle. We're moving on today to the construction phase, which is for many the most exciting and interesting phase of the entire development process. It's obviously where we see the hard work starting to take shape, and starting to actually produce something, because obviously it takes a lot of effort and a lot of work to get it to this point. And it doesn't really feel, I don't know, certainly from my perspective, it doesn't necessarily feel that real until you start seeing activity on site. You start seeing spades in the ground, you start seeing foundations going in, you start seeing things coming out the ground, and everything that you've worked on with your team, with the design team, on paper, is actually becoming a reality. So it's for many, it's the most exciting. It certainly is the most exciting for me, having moved from actually being one of those guys on site on a regular basis, full time in construction as a general contractor, to actually observing it now, and obviously you're moving it to even closer towards making some money and seeing the fruits of your labor and all the hard work as well. So joined for this session by Richard as well. Obviously a vast amount of experience across the property sector, but certainly construction. shares my sort of passion and interest in the construction side of things. It's probably where I got it from, in all honesty. But we wanted to introduce the build phase to you with this video. And for many, it can become quite overwhelming when you do understand or start to consider all the things that make up the construction phase. So the easiest way that we can break it down for you guys is that the construction phase is divided into three distinct sections. You've got pre-construction, you've got construction, and then you've got post-construction. So before, during, and after. And in reality, some of these processes, some of the information that we're going to be sharing in subsequent videos on the detail, a lot of this stuff starts way before we get to this actual stage of spading the ground. And that obviously starts with pre-construction, and depending on the size of your project, the complexity of your project as well, the pre-construction phase can start probably 12 or even 18 months before the actual build phase starts, because the success of the build really it begins with the pre-construction phase, because the pre-construction is all about getting your ducks in a row, getting your paperwork together, understanding what conditions are attached to the planning permission, and discharging all those conditions. It's about procurement. So how are we actually gonna buy in the build? What contracts do we need? It's managing all the professional team and that transition between design and then actual delivery, and managing that process. So it's about working out obviously your role within that as well, whether that's you as the lead developer, or are you going to take more of a hands-on role in the pre-construction, or are you going to be working closely with a project manager or a project manager that specializes in pre-construction, and moving all of that through. We're obviously, during the pre-construction phase, we're looking at schedule of works or bill of quantity. So we're looking at the pricing, we're looking at tendering, we're looking at the program of works as well. And these are the kind of things obviously that we want to line up way before this stage, because obviously a program of works, for example, is going to dictate how long the construction is going to take. That then obviously has a knock-on effect in terms of our funding requirements, because we don't want to be sort of underestimating how long the construction process is going to take, and then not allowing sufficient funds, for example. So a lot of these processes do start way before we get to this stage. But then obviously once we've secured, once we've got planning, we're then moving into the construction phase.
Yeah, so as Bryn said, this is for me and him, obviously, the most exciting bit, and I love all aspects of the development process. But when you actually go on site, you know that the day the diggers arrive or whatever, you know, it's a special day, and then it's really a case of it depends how much you want to be involved or not. But this is when we find that people, certainly at the beginning of the build side of things, they really want to be involved, and they're, you know, and they're down there quite frequently on site and things, which has to be managed sometimes if you've got, you know, loads of investors and different sort of stakeholders, if you like, in the project, you know, so it has to be managed very, very carefully. But yeah, the build is just like, yeah, where it all comes, all the paperwork, all the hard work, all the frustrations, all the dealings with the with the lawyers and the money and everything else, and you know, which can sometimes take years. You know, it does, as Bryn's quite rightly said, it becomes real when we get on site. So during the build phase, what we're going to look at, and we're going to share with you quite a bit of information on the various phases. So we're going to start in the site preparation. So it may well be that you've got demolition, perhaps, might be contamination on site. So we're going to be looking at all of those aspects. Then we're going to be looking in the groundworks, the substructure, so all the underground stuff, the foundations and things like that. I'm going to talk about different types of foundation, where they're appropriate, where they aren't appropriate, and also associated with that is site infrastructure work, so like roads, drainage, utility connections. We're going to be talking about the importance of that and where it fits, and what you need to look out for. And then moving through the build, what we call the build above the ground is the superstructure. So the substructure is below the ground, the superstructure is above the ground. So everything that you can effectively see, you know, certainly from the outside, the structure of the thing that stays up, that keeps it up. So we're going to be talking, you know, quite a bit of detail about that. And then when we get inside the building, once the structure's up there, once it's weather tight, we are going to be looking at the various, the plumbing, the heating, you know, the electrical works, the ventilation, all the things that you need to look out for. So some of the interesting stuff. Some we'll try not to dwell too much on too much detail where it's not important. But and the finishing. So when actually what we've got, we start off, we go inside, we've got bare walls, we put all the hidden stuff in first, which we call the first fix. Then it all gets plastered over, or some sort of wall finish, and then the second fix. And the second fix is what we term it's the stuff that you still see at the end. So it's your electrical sockets, it's your radiators, it's your doors and your skirting boards and your kitchen units and your bathroom fittings, etc., etc. So we go through each element of that. So there's quite a lot of, you know, I suppose people would now call it tricks of the trade, if you like, things to work out for, things to, you know, things to avoid, but also things to actually really try and achieve, you know. And in terms of the way it's structured, and I think the other thing here is, and we'll probably, you know, put the content in this section, types of construction. So when we're talking about superstructure, you know, people would have heard of modular construction, which is part of what we call MMC, so modern methods of construction. We will be going through all the different construction types, the fors and against, when they can work, and why they sometimes don't work. And you know, and then the finishing off. So once we finished off the inside of the house, at the same time we're finishing off the outside of the house. So, you know, tidying up the gardens, the landscaping, you know, the what we call street furniture, all adding those details. So the build is, you know, it's generally, on most projects, it's many months long. You know, and on some of the projects that we were involved with and we got on our desk, you know, they can run into the years. So it's a living, breathing thing, you know, and every time you go on site, even if you don't go on, like myself, don't go on site that often, but I've got people that go on site, members of the team, so we see videos, see pictures and things, and there's nothing quite like seeing the progress at certain key points. You know, when the superstructure, the walls are up, the roofs are on, and then the scaffold comes down. That's always a big moment, you know. the pouring of the first foundation. I think you'd agree, Bryn. That's we still get excited by a concrete lorry turning up. It's, you're more excited now. You don't have to push the barrel with the concrete in it, aren't you? But so we're going to cover all of the aspects of build and really sort of dig into some detail that we probably haven't ever shared before, I suspect, because we never really get into a lot of the detail on the build because we're very much focused, front end. So the build stuff, and actually, to be fair, it doesn't get covered that well on YouTube, social media, and different things. So I think it's actually quite exciting to actually be putting some decent stuff out there on that. And then post construction. So once the project's finished, it's a case of right, okay, what are liabilities might you have before you hand over responsibility for it? You might be selling some houses, you might be refinancing them, you might be moving them on to another company that you might own. It's understanding post what we call practical completion. So when the buildings are virtually finished, apart from odd bits and pieces, it's post construction. So things like defects, etc. How long does the defect period last? How long are you responsible for defects? How you deal with defects? And that's because not just the buildings, it's the externals as well, including the roads. It could be including fences, and we'll also be looking at perhaps how you are looking at management companies, because part of the end of the build, the post construction, if you like, there's a lot of paperwork to do. That needs tidying up, and part of that now, increasingly now, we're using management companies to look after the communal parts of sites, which will often now include roads and drainage and things like that. So that's all things that we need to look at post construction. And if anything you can add to post construction, I've missed off there, Bryn, that we're gonna give some information on.
Not really. I think it's mainly it's taking it from practical completion to occupation. Really, it's that bit in between. So mainly people think about post construction as just the snagging, really, but ultimately it's understanding where the liability lies. Once the project effectively has finished, because obviously. You probably moved on to the next project, right? You're moving your team on to the next project. And it's quite easy to, if you've not done too many of these types of projects before, it's quite easy to take your kind of eye off of the ball, so to speak. So it's about understanding, where the responsibility lies and how long for, really. That's the main thing of post-construction. And obviously post-construction, it takes us to effectively the end of the project, the sign off and the exit, and then we're away, really. So it's just this sign off of the construction process, really. So as you can see, even just an introduction to going through some of the areas, there's a considerable amount of areas to talk about. You could probably do 100 in 100 on construction on its own. Not something that I'm going to commit to doing at this stage, I can tell you, but who knows what will happen in the future with future videos. But it is the most exciting part. I guess one of the most exciting parts of the construction process, even before the mixers get on site and start pouring the first foundations. It's getting your flagpole up, or getting your hoarding up, and getting your name on the door, as it were. And these are the great. I think the thing to also mention as well now is documenting the process, right? Not just from a things that you need to do to document the process, but it's actually document the process with pictures, with videos, with updates. Because if you're dealing with investors, if you're you're looking for new projects, there's nothing like a previous project and showing people how you have changed something, and taken them through a bare bit of land or a disused building to creating some really nice units and selling them or renting them or whatever, that can often be the key to getting further investment and further deals as well. So that's a really important thing to think about as well, is making sure that throughout the process you are documenting it regularly. So we're going to be joining you again tomorrow for the first kind of official construction video into pre-construction, and there'll be quite a few videos of the remaining 100 sessions that'll take us then to exit, which is obviously the final piece of the development puzzle, and that'll take us to the 100th video. So hopefully you found this little introduction video useful, just as an overview really of some of the things to consider more than anything, and we'll look forward to adding layers of information as we go through the next few videos. So thanks very much for joining, and we'll see you again very, very soon. Take care.